Imagine being exiled from your city just for wearing pants. It might sound absurd today, but in ancient Rome, it was a real thing. In the year 397 AD, an unexpected order echoed through the halls of power in Rome. Emperor Honorius decreed that pants were officially banned in the city. Anyone who dared to wear them would be punished with exile, expelled from the capital of the world as if they were a traitor. But why was something as common as a pair of pants seen as a threat to the most powerful empire in the world? What were the Romans really trying to hide? The answer goes far beyond fashion. Behind this ban was a clash of worlds, a silent confrontation between civilizations. Get ready to discover how an invisible war fought with fabrics helped shape the history of Western civilization. To understand this prejudice, we first need to look at what the Greeks and Romans themselves wore. And here's the key point. They believed their clothing reflected their identity as civilized people. Imagine walking through the streets of ancient Rome. The hot sun bathes the city in golden light. The climate is dry. The pale stone buildings reflect the heat. In this setting, what made sense was exactly what you'd see. Loose, lightweight, breathable clothing. Men wore simple tunics, known as chiton among the Greeks and tunica among the Romans. Some were shorter, for young men or for work. Others longer and more refined, for formal occasions. Over that, the himation, or the famous Roman toga, a large cloak that wrapped the body with elegance and symbolism. Women, on the other hand, would stroll around in the peplos, or long, well-structured tunics, fastened with bronze or gold brooches at the shoulders. The fabric was like an extension of classical femininity. Beautiful and silent, these clothes, besides being practical, were a visual language, a public display of order, rationality, and sophistication. Everything that, to them, separated the Roman citizen from the barbarian at the borders. Pants, however, were seen as the complete opposite. Strange, tight, uncomfortable, almost animalistic. A type of garment that hugged the body too closely. Considered crude, even grotesque. An aesthetic aberration for those who believed beauty lay in harmony and balanced forms. And more. In a world where the male body was proudly displayed in statues and paintings, hiding the legs beneath tight fabric almost felt like cowardice. But the prejudice went far beyond aesthetics. Pants weren't just a strange fashion choice in Roman eyes. They carried a devastating symbolic weight. Wearing them was like donning the skin of the enemy. In the frozen fields of the north and the steppes of the east, peoples like the Persians, Scythians, Gauls, and Germanic tribes protected their legs from the cold with tight-fitting garments, designed to withstand harsh climates and to allow ease of movement during long rides. For them, it was a matter of practicality and survival. But the Romans didn't see it that way. When looking at these snug clothes, the Roman citizen saw far more than wool and leather. Over time, pants became a visual symbol of those who lived outside the Roman order, those who threatened its borders and way of life. Imagine a centurion watching a Germanic warrior, covered to the ankles in thick clothing, with a crude sword in hand and a fierce look in his eyes. To him, that was the embodiment of everything Rome sought to keep at bay. And here's where things get even more tense. Wearing pants in Rome was literally aligning yourself with the empire's enemies. It was like declaring, without saying a word, that you identified with those who fought against civilization. It's no surprise then that laws like Honorius's were created, not just to regulate fashion, but to preserve identity, to say firmly, we are not like them. But history, as always, has its twists, because the cold didn't care about any of that. As the empire expanded beyond the Alps, into the vast forests of Germania, the mountains of Britannia, and the icy plains of Dacia, reality came knocking, or rather, it froze the legionaries to the bone. Out there, among morning frosts and biting winds, no tunic was enough. That's when necessity stepped in. And necessity doesn't ask permission from tradition. Roman soldiers began to adopt, discreetly at first, a piece of clothing from the very people they fought. The bracy, pants made of thick wool or leather, often tied at the shins with straps. Simple, rustic, but effective. On long patrols along the Rhine frontier, during night watches in camps under the frozen sky, pants became a matter of survival. They kept muscles from seizing up, legs from freezing, soldiers from falling before even facing the enemy. And so, quietly, what was once considered barbaric began to infiltrate the body of the empire. Over time, what was once an exception became a habit. Soldiers returning from the colder regions no longer wore only the traditional tunic. They brought back, along with battle scars and stories, the custom of wearing pants, now seen by many as part of the uniform, as essential a tool as the sword. And that started to cause quite a stir. The senatorial elite, the staunchest defenders of Roman tradition, watched with growing concern as this barbarian fashion advanced into the very halls of power. This wasn't just about aesthetics anymore. Roman identity itself was at stake. It was in this context that Emperor Honorius made a drastic decision. In 397 AD, he issued a decree banning the wearing of pants within the city of Rome. Honorius wasn't just trying to control people's clothing. He wanted to prevent Romans from starting to act like barbarians, and barbarians from looking more and more like Romans. The punishment for breaking the rule: exile. A harsh, extreme penalty, but one that reveals just how deep the fear had grown within the capital's walls. This decree exposed an uncomfortable truth. The empire was divided. On one side, the ideal of a classical Rome, elegant, intellectual, urban. On the other, a Rome increasingly militarized, adapted to cold, to war, and to threatened borders. And like any empire on the brink, Rome tried to protect its image, even if that image was already falling apart. And over time, Honorius's law collapsed. Despite threats and punishments, pants continued to spread, quietly at first, then in full force. It was like trying to stop the wind with your hands. Reality had already changed, and not even an emperor could stop it. Eventually, even senators, once guardians of the toga and the himation, began wearing pants in their more private attire, especially outside the capital. Shame gave way to practicality. A symbol of pride became a relic of times that would never return. As the Germanic peoples pushed through the borders, invaded cities, and founded kingdoms atop the empire's ruins, what was once called barbaric became the new normal. Pants, born among Rome's enemies, now clothed the entire West. Kings, knights, clerics, peasants. Roman tradition was buried under the weight of practicality and historical change. In the end, Rome fell and pants remained. Now, I want to know your opinion. What do you think about the ban on wearing pants? Did Rome go too far with that law? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story and want to see more epic content like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. In the video on screen,